guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from WhatCulture, and myself and Adam Nicholas have just finished watching Backlash 2018, so I suppose it's time for us to do what went down. I think the general sense of what went down was the quality of this pay-per-view as it went on. We started with the match of the night, The Miz versus Seth Rollins for the Intercontinental Championship. A great little match. Not only did they put in some stellar spots in there, but you could just tell how much both men wanted to win this title. From the spill to the outside from Seth Rollins that looked genuinely painful, to the knee into the post, which then led to Seth selling his knee brilliantly throughout the match. We had two skull-crushing finales that Seth kicked out of, and the finish, despite Seth's bad knee, the curb stomp, which put Miz down for the 1-2-3. Seth Rollins retaining the Intercontinental Championship. It was a great start to the pay-per-view. It promised so much. Granted, we expected a lot from these two, but they did a stellar job. And then... Next up, we had Nia Jax defending her Raw Women's Championship against Alexa Bliss. And I don't want to see the whole pay-per-view sort of fell off a cliff after The Miz versus Seth Rollins, because it didn't. This was a good little match. You had Alexa Bliss, who seemingly had learned from her match with Nia at WrestleMania, wrestling in a different style, really trying to chop down that tree and work to whatever her strengths were. There was a glorious little DDT onto the steps where I think a few of us genuinely thought that Nia may have been knocked out on the outside. But aside from that, there are some good little spots in this match, but it was effectively a sort of glorified TV match. I think the general consensus was that was what happened for a lot of the matches on tonight's pay-per-view. But the finish was really well thought out and did exactly what needed to happen next with Nia Jax. She caught a Twisted Bliss, hit a Samoan drop, and pinned Alexa Bliss to retain her Raw Women's Championship, and then cut a lovely promo. Now, myself and Adam Nicholas couldn't really hear it. Obviously, we were sort of talking over it on the stream. I understand from some of the comments that the New Jersey crowd weren't great in their reception of this, but it's exactly what WWE need to do if they're going to continue with what they're doing with this Nia Jax character. And I'm intrigued to see who they put her up against next, because she's a weird sort of baby-face monster that they've got right now, in terms of she tears through everyone that she faces, and yet she's beloved by a lot of the audience for representing this sort of person who genuinely you would accept as someone who's been targeted, someone who's been bullied, and that's who she represents. Then we had the United States Championship match. It was Jeff Hardy versus Randy Orton. I know, what year is it? But we know what these two are capable of. We knew that they would put on a great match. It spilled to the outside. Jeff did all of his fantastic aerial stuff. Randy, with his usual sort of style that just utilizes whatever he can to try and get the job done. We almost had a repeat of, I think, that match at the Royal Rumble where Jeff went for the twist of fate and it was reversed into an RKO. But in the end, Jeff came out victorious. A twist of fate that was immediately followed up with a swanton bomb. Jeff defending his United States Championship, as I think we all thought he should. Going forward, it's going to be very interesting to see who they put him with next. But yeah, as much as we all worried that they would think that maybe it was another time for Randy to hold a title, this was the right thing going forward. And that was followed up by one of the best unexpected segments on the entire pay-per-view. We had Elias come out for a performance, which is always great. He was then interrupted by The New Day, this being a dual-branded pay-per-view. You had sort of people from each show coming out and wanting to get their own airtime. Then we had Rusev and Aiden English. You sort of can't not have Rusev on any pay-per-view, because otherwise every match will be drowned out by Rusev Day chants. And then, from my perspective, possibly the highlight of my entire life. No Way Jose coming out, accompanied by Titus Worldwide and Breezango and a whole host of course, developmental guys who are part of No Way Jose's conga line. It was weird, it was wonderful, it put a smile on everyone's face. If you didn't like this, then fine, but it's just WWE at its silliest. and they try and do comedy sometimes and it falls flat on its arse. This was very entertaining. We finished with Elias trying to conclude his performance. He kept going back to the lights being dimmed and the spotlight being on him and JoJo introducing him. And then we were finally concluded with Bobby Roode. He came out, he immediately hit a glorious DDT on Elias. Well, he was already in the ring. It wasn't like he came out to a glorious introduction. And then he sort of booty popped at Rusev as he left. That's a mental image that will stay with me forever. Weird, wonderful, and a weird sort of highlight of this pay-per-view, which looking back was sorely needed. Daniel Bryan versus Big Cass was next, a storyline that was sort of followed up on at the Greatest Royal Rumble, with Big Cass coming out and eliminating the guy who'd been there from number 1, of course. Daniel Bryan versus Big Cass, the big man versus little man contest that we all sort of needed in Daniel Bryan's recuperation story. Daniel Bryan's first one-on-one pay-per-view match since Fastlane 2015 when he faced Roman Reigns. So give him his due, he looked fantastic in there. He played the underdog, of course, perfectly, but credit to Big Cass, because Big Cass did his whatever that is to an absolute T. He looked like he was being out-wrestled for a while. It was size versus skill, I think the way they booked it as. But in the end, he looked like he was being dominant. He looked like he was just one big boot away from putting away Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan selling again, looking fantastic here. I'm always terrified when he's in the ring nowadays because of what's happened. But he almost overcompensates for that by flinging himself all over the ring. It finished with, from out of relatively nowhere, Daniel Bryan getting Big Cass into the yes lock. And do you know what I really liked about this? Is the speed that Big Cass tapped out in. Because that move, with the torque that Daniel Bryan put on it, looked brutal. I think we all thought, all right, it's okay if Big Cass defeats Daniel Bryan because this will be a series and eventually Daniel Bryan will win out. The worry was if Daniel Bryan won and there was no comeuppance, because you've just brought Big Cass back from a serious injury. You've just brought him back as this dominant, huge, terrifying force that's come in to tear through a guy who he thinks nothing of. And the argument I assume going forward will be from Big Cass that he took him a little bit too lightly and that won't happen again. But anyway, Daniel Bryan, yes, taps out Big Cass, and then, whilst he's celebrating, Big Cass comes out and decimates him. He leaves with his hand held very high. He's a tall man. Stop making it look like his name is Big Ass when he comes out on the Titantron, but still. Carmella versus Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's Championship. I think if you'd have asked most people before this match how it was going to end, it was going to end one of two ways. In both of those scenarios, Carmella leaves with the SmackDown Women's Championship. Either there is some interference and Carmella uses that to pin Charlotte, sort of backdooring her way into retaining the title, or Charlotte is about to win and there is some interference that costs her the match, so she wins by disqualification, but obviously doesn't win the belt. That didn't happen. A nice little swerve here from WWE. Mella is money, as she will have you know. Really like the fact that she actually won sort of clean. She utilised the fact that Charlotte had sort of tweaked her knee going from the moonsault off the top, but she didn't hold on to the rope, she didn't grab the tights, she pinned her because Charlotte got injured. She hung it in there in the match. She got her arse handed to her for the majority of it, which is kind of what we need to see. Charlotte, at the end of the day, is the person who broke Asuka's streak. And then Carmella pinned Charlotte clean, without the Iconics turning up. Carmella is still SmackDown Women's Champion. She needs to be for a while. She is the perfect heel champion, for now at the very least. And it was a nice little surprise that she didn't use someone else to retain that title. The WWE Championship match was next, on a pay-per-view without any other championships on the line after that. You really test me sometimes, WWE. You really do. AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura, a match I thought probably could have headlined WrestleMania, doesn't even headline Backlash. You know who headlined Backlash last year for the WWE Championship, don't you? Now, obviously, post-match, you go, okay, well, yeah, they couldn't finish a no DQ match for the WWE Championship like that at the end of a pay-per-view, but that's down to your stupid booking. That ain't down to the quality of the match. The way that match was going, it was going to supersede Miz versus Rollins for match of the night. Defined roles like they had at Greatest Royal Rumble, a no DQ stipulation that worked really well into both of the way that they worked the match, and then that finish. Jesus Christ, WWE. All right, you've got a no DQ match that finishes with both men not being able to transfer a 10 count. I get it, it's in the rules, but wow, you really are testing me, aren't you? So we had Reigns versus Lesnar at the Greatest Royal Rumble, and when that went to a sort of non-finish, I went, we're gonna have to watch these two fight again, aren't we? I'm fine with watching AJ Styles fight Shinsuke Nakamura again, especially for the WWE Championship, but this is not the way to get to it. Some great spots in there. The double, well, not double, Shinsuke hits AJ with the low blow, who then immediately answers with a low blow of his very own. Lovely that. The double kick low blow that finished the match, that just shows how good they are, that they timed that so perfectly. But that's it. That's your finish to the WWE Championship match at Backlash? Really? Really? That's what you're going for? You better have some f***ing good stuff to come, that's all I'll say. Whew. Right, so penultimate match of the night was Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Can anyone remember the last time that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn actually won on pay-per-view? Right, this was kind of surreal because a lot of us went into it thinking, well, if any of these tag teams are going to implode, it's going to be Bobby Lashley and Braun Strowman, because two huge guys fighting against each other going forwards. It's going to please one very important man in WWE, that, isn't it? I suppose we should have guessed by the way this pay-per-view was going what was going to happen here. Owens and Zayn were getting destroyed anyway, and then decided to basically volunteer each other to take moves from Braun and Bobby. I don't know what Bobby's finisher is meant to look like, but it's really disappointing. When he did it to Kevin Owens, awful. In a match where it was so meh, when it was such a TV finish to a pay-per-view match, he still got cheered to the rafters, Braun. That tells you all you need to know, WWE. Bobby and Braun were already over. Kevin and Sami just look even worse nowadays. The way this what went down is slowly deflating is how I felt about that pay-per-view. And finally, we had Roman Reigns versus Samoa Joe in the main event of Backlash 2018. It started off at about 100 miles an hour, both going at each other, and then rest holds, chin locks, and we all knew where it was going from there, really, didn't we? Like, initially, we had Samoa Joe putting Roman Reigns through a table with Uranagi, which looked brilliant. And then we just sort of had a plodding route to what we all knew was going to be Superman punches and spears, and that was it. Samoa Joe's tear after coming back is over. Yes, Roman Reigns probably needed a victory after what's gone on recently with him and Brock Lesnar, but not in this way, really. I can't remember the last time I felt this depressed after a WWE pay-per-view. No titles changed hands. Roman wins, lol. All the guys who are looking evil and powerful have left it looking non-existent anymore. I have to do a lot to bloody salvage it here, WWE. I can't believe it. I know I should expect it, but I can't believe it. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I've been Adam from WhatCulture. This has been what went down at Backlash 2018. Better do something big at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, boys. Good luck. Jesus Christ.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe below, and if you're looking for more content like this, then try a few things that are floating about around my ears. It might be fun. I can't promise it though, but it might be.